Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show coming at you after Game 7 between the Celtics and the Heat. They gave us our money's worth, to say the least. And as always, I'm joined by Andrew Combo Salop. Thank you, Combo, for being here, staying up late with us a little bit. So what's happening? What did you think of the game? What are your first thoughts, first impressions? Heat win. They're in the finals.
Did we get our money's worth? Because that game wasn't that fun. The Heat didn't make it that fun for us. They kind of blew them out. It was very interesting. Caleb Martin he's just different, man. Like when I've been watching him play recently, it feels like something has been glitchy about his shooting. Like it's something out of a video game. Just off the eye test, it feels like he's shooting like 80% from three, getting to the rim, super shifty in transition. Love his game, and it's just amazing to watch him play. My question to you is, should he have won the Larry Bird Award?
Oh, you know what? I had ran off before I saw all the stuff hanging out. So they gave him who did they give it? Butler?
Jimmy, which I think is fair, but I mean, Caleb was different, man.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Right now, it's not going to have updated for the conference finals for Game 7, which sucks because I want to see. Let me get the Heat here because through 6 games, and we'll talk about his stats from tonight. Caleb Martin was in 34 minutes. He was averaging. Oh my goodness, where are the points? Is this a normal thing here? That's weird. Traditional. Okay. I'm like having trouble reading this box score. I am. Oh, there it is. My goodness. 18 points, 58% shooting overall, 46 from 3, throwing in an assist and a half, almost 6 rebounds. You know, Jimmy, this is all through 6. It obviously goes up to probably 20 something for the 7 games. Jimmy was 24 on 41.7% field goals and 31 from 3. You know what? Jimmy came through in this game and was good enough, that I would probably end up saying he deserves it. But I tweeted this out. It's interesting when you see guys like Derek White and Martin have great games in Game 7. It's like they don't have any pressure on them. They're like the role players. No one's expecting anything from them at all. And that ends up why they do really well versus like Jimmy struggled a bit, but we also saw, Tatum we'll get into in a second, but that was an issue. Who else struggled? Oh, Bam. I thought Bam struggled big time under the weight of the pressure. He was fumbling balls, missing close shots, like not picking up the right guy. He seemed overwhelmed by the pressure of the moment. Does that feel right for you?
I mean, you say no pressure. I think the right way to put it would be less pressure, right? I mean, these guys still have pressure. And I think some role players, it's tougher for them because they don't get as many reps. I don't think that's the case with Derek White or Caleb Martin, but think about like Duncan Robinson. I thought he played really well, and I thought there was a good amount of pressure on him. Maybe not from the defense, but just everything surrounding him. Like he wasn't even in the rotation for a while. For him to come up this big in this series has been phenomenal.
And they kind of forgot about him there. They didn't go to him in the second half early enough, and I even tweeted that out. They had a timeout. I think it was the beginning of the 4th. And I said, I would suggest if I were an assistant that they put him in. And, of course, they put him in, and he hits a 3 right away on an out-of-bounds play. So that's, by the way, there's no greater joy for a coach than inserting a player in the game, and then he comes in and hits a shot. That's always an awesome feeling when that really works that way. So, before we get into anything more, let's make sure everyone understands that we have super chats is the way to go if you want to have your question answered by us and we'll give you lots of hype and love, and it really helps us get the show going. So that would be really appreciated if you want to do that, and we'll put your question on the stage. And just right on time, there's N Starks. We'll get you in 1 second, but we have a special guest tonight. I want to bring on best friend of the breakdown, Chip Clark, who is a referee, and he interacts with us all the time on Twitter to talk about the plays and why there were certain calls made. So let's bring Chip on. He just got in here. Let's add him to the stream. What's going on? Oh, and he's muted, so let's unmute him. I'll unmute him. Maybe he needs to unmute himself.
Yep, I'm good, guys. How you guys doing?
Right. What's
going
on?
Nice to meet you, Chip.
Hey, Combo. What's up, man? I love watching you guys on y'all's live shows after the games, man. It's great stuff. You guys are great.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And stay tuned, everybody, because I was in Florida not long ago with Chip on the court, and we went over a lot of rules that you probably will screw up or not understand properly. And Chip explains them all the way for you. We're going to do a whole series on that. Probably right when the finals are over, I'm going to start turning all that content out that I have. So don't forget, when the NBA season is over, I kick into high gear. We got a lot of content to release all summer long. So don't forget about that. let's do a real quick, let's throw it to Chip for, a play. I know there's a few there that people seem to get a little bit upset about today, what didn't understand fully. Do you have a play that you wanted to discuss real quick on the top of your head?
Yeah, we can, and I can just hang tight in case anybody has any questions that about any calls or anything like that over the course. But I think a couple of let me just first say, and I know I'm probably not going to be the favorite for saying this, but I thought overall the Crew had a great game tonight. Overall, all right. When you look at when you look at everything put together, so they had an outstanding first quarter. Like I texted you earlier, it's easier when they're not playing as aggressive or physical, and there's not a lot of contact going on. But I think the first two periods, I don't think any team even got into the penalty. There was a good flow to the game, even though there was some missed shots here and there. I guess probably let's go ahead and talk about the Butler travel, or excuse me, the Tatum travel, and the Butler one right after that was not called. Okay,
for sure.
So
and if you want to check, sorry, real quick, if you want to check it out, you can go to Twitter. It's on my timeline, not that far down. You'll see both of those in one clip that you can kind of see what they meant. But sorry,
I didn't get to see it. Did you give a breakdown of it?
I did. I was able to squeeze a hole. I even flamed Reggie Miller a little bit in that tweet.
Did you?
Well, he wanted to say that both those were the same exact thing, and that was
they were
not the same thing. So, okay, talk to us. Jason Tatum's on the left side of the floor in transition. He catches the ball. Walk us through why that was a good call.
And this is going to come up in our video that you're going to do in the offseason too, of stuff that we filmed. But NBA rules are a bit different than college and high school rules for a progressing player who gathers the ball off a pass or a loose ball while they're progressing. All right. So in the NBA and FIBA, you get a gather step or a zero step if you catch a pass or a loose ball with 1 foot on the floor. Let's start with Tatum's play first. Tatum catches the ball clearly with both feet off the floor, which means he does not get a gather step. A gather step only applies when you catch the ball or end your dribble with 1 foot on the floor. He does not do that. Now, by rule, a progressing player who catches the ball is only permitted 1 step after the gather before they release the ball to start a dribble. They have to release the ball out of their hands to start a dribble before that second foot touches, that second step. Okay. Now, since he didn't get a gather step, he gathers with both feet off the floor. His right foot touches first for step 1. That's the first step after the gather. That's all he's permitted to take. He has to release that dribble before step 2 touches the floor. And we see his left foot touch the floor for step 2 and then him release the dribble. And Tony Brothers was all over that one. That was a correct call. And a difficult one in game speed to recognize, but not as difficult as the Butler play right after that. Now here's the Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and we need to talk about that because the reason why that's different is, like you mentioned, Butler had his foot on the ground. But this was a hard one for me to understand. Chip, you had to walk me through this when I first started to understand the notion of a progressing player. And by the way, the concept of the gather step and having the 2 steps after that is kind of consistent even when you're talking about a progressing player who has 2 steps after he gathers the ball or catches the ball.
To pass or shoot. Yep.
Yeah, but it is different, and the rules are written slightly differently. So talk to us a little bit really quickly about, or not so quickly, but in depth about how the Jimmy Butler thing played out. On again, left side of the floor, but going the other direction in front of us in terms of the camera.
Yep. And first, let's start by saying the biggest difference between this and college and high school rules is the fact that in college and high school rules, it's all about the pivot foot. It's not about progressing players' steps. Okay. So if you catch a ball with 1 foot on the floor, like Jimmy does, he catches the pass with his left foot on the floor. That's your gather step in NBA and FIBA, or your zero step, right? It doesn't count towards your 2 allowable steps after the gather to pass or shoot, or your 1 step after the gather to start a dribble. All right. Now, in high school and college, you catch it with that left foot on the floor. That's your pivot foot. And if you lift that pivot foot, just simply lift it before releasing the ball to start a dribble, that's a travel in high school and college. Not so in NBA. You actually have to step with that second step to be able to, or to not be able to release a dribble. So we see Jimmy catches the ball with his left foot on the floor. That's his gather step. It does not count toward his step count. He then steps with his right foot for step 1. And then he goes to release the ball to start his dribble just as his left foot is touching the floor for step 2. If you slow it down, like really slow it down, it is like really close. I mean, that left foot plants right as that ball is on his fingertips to release it. And when you're talking about in real time game speed, being highly certain that he has traveled based on the rules, there's no way in my opinion, you would be guessing. If John Goble called a travel there, he would be guessing because it's that close. We're talking tenths of a second by the time that left foot maybe touches before that ball is completely released from his hands. So he technically, if you slow it down, he probably did take that step 2 before he released the ball to start a dribble. But the thing that's so interesting about these two plays is that the Butler one looks like the more egregious travel, but it is almost not a travel at all. And then the Tatum one looks like, oh man, that may not be a travel, but it's a more egregious travel than Jimmy's in reality.
Well, let me walk you through this, because what's confusing, or could be confusing to me or anybody out there, is, okay, left foot was down when he caught it. The right foot becomes the pivot foot. Now, as a progressing player, it's not when he doesn't have to release the ball before the right foot comes up. It's when the left foot comes down. That's what's kind of backwards here, not backwards, but different in that it's not like he was a static player who caught it and then jab step, and then before he lifts the pivot foot, he has to release the ball into a dribble. It's the gather step comes off the floor. That's okay. Right foot, the pivot foot's still on the floor, but he has to get the ball out of his hand before that left step touches the ground again, which is really really close.
Absolutely. And that's an interesting point though, Coach, because here's the thing is a progressing player, and I've talked to you about this before. If there's can be so many things to compare, like so many positives in comparing your step 1 to your pivot foot. You know what I mean? So your first step after the gather is going to be your pivot foot. Well, that's only if you come to a stop and pivot.
Right.
All right. Technically, so by NBA rule and FIBA rule, like if you're still a progressing player throughout the whole thing, it's probably best to not even think of it as a pivot foot. I mean, it's productive when they're going to pass and shoot. You can say, well, this is an example of them being able to lift their pivot foot legally to release a pass or try for goal or a pass or shot. But in reality, as far as a progressing player goes, there's some parallels there, obviously. But for this one, it's easier to think of whenever a player catches the ball or ends their dribble, gathers the ball, while progressing, they're allowed 2 steps in coming to a stop, passing or shooting the ball. Or if they've not dribbled yet, this is the NBA rule verbatim that I'm just quoting, or if they've not yet dribbled, 1 step prior to releasing the ball to start their dribble.
Boom. Okay. That's it right there. So it's interesting because his pivot foot technically, was still on the ground before when he released it, but it's not a pivot foot. And the reason why this is coming up a lot more now is because we teach run and catch, right? We're trying to attack on the catch a lot more than we used to, which was always triple threat, hold the ball first before you go. Now everybody makes catches on the run and having to get into their attack right away. And so you see a lot more of these instances like that. And man, it just makes it harder for the referee to do this job.
Yeah, it's very difficult in real time. But thanks for letting me explain those two. I'll stay on while you guys talk some shop because I love listening to you guys. And if anybody has a question about a play, I'll be happy to answer.
Hang out with us, right? But we have a couple of super chats to get to right now, so we'll probably go over your. Oh no, you get smaller. Okay, good to know. Here we go. So N Starks 007, thank you so much. We've seen N Starks in a friend of the breakdown before. Thank you so much. Really generous. Really appreciate that. You think Boston is finally going to let a point guard run their offense instead of the inefficient ISO bros? Jalen and Tatum can't make these decisions going forward. Well, I will say this, and Combo, we're going to hear from you in a second. There's a consistency to their weaknesses in their game that are not getting addressed, right? They're playing, I was calling it in football when they are constantly stripping to get fumbles. It's a certain kind of defense, hands defense, or whatever, the hands package. And then someone actually explained it. I forgot what they called it. What do you guys call it in football? Chip? What's that method of playing defense where you're always stripping the ball? I don't know. Anyway, that's Combo. No. Okay. That's what they try and do all the time, and it works. And you can see them; they're getting out of position defensively while they're just trying to reach because they know that chances are they'll get the ball loose, and they certainly did that tonight as well. So that's a big problem. You have Marcus Smart, who made some, really interesting errors tonight, and then he had a bounce pass on a backdoor cut early in the game that was like I had to watch it 3 times just to make sure that I was correct in thinking that it was really problematic. But what do you think about this, Combo?
I think they've tried to make moves in the past to lead to more connectivity.
Yeah.
Like Derek White was one of those moves. They've been trying PG Smart. I know you're not the biggest Marcus Smart guy, Coach Dick. Another question would be who is a real PG in this league anymore? I mean, you got Chris Paul. You don't have a lot of guys that play that traditional PG role anymore. So this is kind of the way the NBA is. You got guys that weave in and out of positions. So I don't know what they could do. Like, could you think of a name of a point guard that would help them? Because they got guys that initiate offense already.
I mean, you almost would say Brogdon could kind of
exactly
do that role.
Totally agree.
He was
totally
hurt, unfortunately, and he really did not play well. And that explains a lot of it because he was really solid for them all year long. Yeah. And there was something off, and I don't know if we actually figured out exactly when he tore a tendon in his forearm. Do you know? Did they report that when?
I don't know. Yeah.
So, but it's been for a few games now, and that explains a lot to me because I was scratching my head a lot, how tentative he was, and he wasn't just playing well at all. So that's a big one that would really, I think, help them. But the other guys just have to get better. They have to be able to handle the ball and understand how to attack and not play as robotic. By the way, the toughest break in the world to see Tatum sprain his ankle on the first play of the game. I mean, I was really looking to see like, would there have been a way for him to avoid that at all? And that was tough. He was shooting the ball from behind the backboard, right? So that was a awkward position to be in, unfortunately. And a choice. I got to look at what the shot clock was at that point. I think maybe he kind of had to, but that was a really weird shot. Vincent tried to take a charge and he happened to be on the ground. Unfortunate, but it cost them. I mean, I don't know if they would have made it up, right? If Boston could have stayed with it. You don't think so? With a better Tatum?
I don't think so. I want to go back to your Brogdon point because basically what I was saying before is like most PGs in the league are more like Brogdon now, like they're combo PGs, right? Yeah. Or like shooting guard, point guard. So I think it's a great question because they still do need more connectivity, but I just don't know who that player is, like to let a PG just run their offense. And is offense in the NBA even ran like that anymore? Like that's a whole different conversation. We see the Kings, like they're almost like the new generation type warrior type offense where it's a lot of equal opportunity. A lot of different people could initiate offense. Denver's the same way. Like you got Jamal Murray playing a little point guard, but then you got your point center in Jokic. So I think everything is more blended now. It's about blending skill sets and tendencies more than positions.
For sure. Well, we got a couple other super chats to get to, and then Chip, since you're still here, there's probably at least one more call that you have, QW, we can talk about, right?
Yeah, I'm going to look at a couple plays I clipped just to get the best one.
All right, you do that while we're waiting, and we got a bunch to run through here, and then we'll come back. So, say where you are. Big Man Sam, wow, thank you so much. Really, really generous of you for the super chat. Really appreciate that. That's amazing. I don't remember. Is Big Man Sam the first? It doesn't say it's his first super chat, but either way, thank you so much. Here's this question. Shades of 2018 Western Conference Finals Game 7. Consistently awful threes by the home team with little to no adjustments. And Jalen's inconsistent playmaking, defense, and backbreaking turnovers will be detriment to his game. All very good points. In a situation like that where you clearly could see that Tatum was laboring. Tatum was actually fine, it looked like, for a stretch there, but I think clearly it swelled up on him, got tight, and then he couldn't really push off. That's when you need to have Jaylen Brown in there. And you probably needed to sit Tatum at that point. They probably didn't want to let him get any colder than he was and then keep the ankle moving. But it was clear at some point, at the end of the third, Tatum really probably shouldn't be in there. And we have to talk about the Heat because the Heat offense was very problematic as well for big stretches, I thought. And they didn't understand. They're lacking that player that they're talking about that the Celtics need too, I think, sometimes. But this is the interesting thing because now you have a lot of data between Tatum and Brown and what they can do. And they've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now. And it's a decision you need to make about whether or not like that duo with the team that they have is ready to go. I would say this, they could keep it together, but the upgrades I would make were around them. Rob Williams is the guy that needs to play probably even more, but I think Marcus Smart's the guy that they should move on from. But what do you think, Combo?
Yeah, you said like the Heat lacked that, pure PG as well, but Jimmy Butler, like he has the basketball in his hands when things really start to matter. And you could even say he's not as talented maybe as Brown and Tatum. I don't know, but he definitely has more IQ and more heart. And that's what showed in this series.
Yeah. And he is that guy that can get everybody organized and he looks to facilitate a lot, like in almost too much, I think, in a couple times here. So he is not like a traditional point guard like the CP3 mold, but there is something there where he scans and he's looking. He's not just like eyes down and I'm just going to score every single time. And for the most part, he does understand how to hunt mismatches, how to get them, into their offense, right? But I thought he was not aggressive again in this game. A couple times too many. It didn't necessarily matter because they were hitting threes. and they were forcing turnovers. That was the name of the game for them. And by the way, it was kind of great to see. It was a little bit. I love the underdog, right? So I kind of find myself cheering for the underdog. And it was heartbreaking to see them have the 3-0 lead, executing their game plan perfectly, and then to have it all fall apart basically as the Celtics started making threes. But guess what? The Celtics went completely dry again from three. They were having some stats out there, right? It started in the last game, right? And I was jumping through a little bit, but am I right? They had some stat about how bad they were from three over the last couple of games.
Yeah, they were 4 for 39, I believe, is what it said. And then right after that, Horford hit a three, and it was 5 for 40.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. In their face. I was, by the way, at a big event, family event, and we were all huddled around this little cell phone for the final 6 minutes of the game. Although my buddy had to get the computer and the projector set up, and I'm always the AV guy, so he couldn't get it done. So the Celtics were up by 10 with, I don't know, 3.5 minutes to go. So I'm like, okay, I'll go help him because it's going to be over, right? And I sit down with whatever, and it was like a tie, or they were down 3, and we know what happened at the end, which we probably should talk a little bit about because we didn't have our live show because of that. The one game I miss ends up being probably the greatest ending we've seen, certainly since Ray Allen in Game 6, right?
One of the greatest moments in Celtics history for sure. Probably ranks right underneath that Larry Bird steal. There's probably some other stuff too, but it's definitely up there in the top 3. It has to be top 3, top 4, top 2.
Yeah, I remember watching the Larry Bird steal live. That was in the conference finals as well, and that was probably Game 6 as well too. I think. Did anyone confirm that? No, I think it's Game 6.
Could be.
And then they went, or it could have been maybe Game 5, and they won Game 6 and the end of the series. But we'll look that up. Someone will tell us in the comments. But let's get to another super chat. We got a bunch here. We got Martin Jose, best friend of the breakdown. Martin, what's going on, my man? Good to see you. Thank you so much. First, what's your thoughts on the Sixers hiring Nick Nurse as head coach? Second, how much impact Tyler Hero's return would be? He needs his scoring ASAP. So I'll jump in here. I think it's a good hiring. I think Nick Nurse can get in there and give them the kind of coach they need for adjustments and maybe for some more clever offense. I think it's hard because Embiid is there. We don't know what's going on with Harden, but he's going to have to sit down with Embiid and have some sort of Vulcan mind meld and explain and convince him that they need to run more offense and just have him stand on the free throw line and throw it to him.
Use the word clever. I think that's the right word for him. He's also an outside the box thinker, and hopefully Harden stays around. I don't know if he will, but I think he could do something really special with Harden and Embiid and the pieces they got around them. Just a really great offensive mind. So I can't wait to see what they do. And I hope this team actually stays together. I want to see what they look like with Nick Nurse. Hope they don't make too many changes. Like, obviously you always want to make your roster better, but it would be nice to see this team run it back, in my opinion.
Yeah. And from what I understand, there wasn't a lot of control from the coaching staff. It was sort of like the inmates running the asylum. And so Nick Nurse needs to come in there and sort of just get everybody on the same page, buying in, and give them a little bit of a more varied offensive attack, and then come up with some interesting things defensively with zones that he runs, and that should help. I think that they'll play better. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the second question, though, is about Tyler Hero's return. We talked about this a few weeks ago when oh my God, who was it for the Magic from St. Joe's?
Jameer Nelson, and then he replaced Ray for Alston.
Yeah. So he comes back in a similar way, right? I think for the finals, kind of disrupted what the Magic had going this whole time. I suppose if they hadn't blown the 3-0 lead and had to get to Game 7, you could probably still argue that you didn't want to disrupt it. He'd have something really good going here, and but obviously they do need some help. They need to shore up. They need more talent on the court. But I would be worried about throwing a guy in there all of a sudden who's going to be that much of a focus and take away shots and disrupt rotations that way. So. Spoelstra will have his hands full. And is it clear is that the final reporting he's going to be available for the finals?
No, but I think everything we're hearing would say that we'll see him in the finals at some point. Okay. Or he'll be ready. I think you don't want to put him back in the starting lineup. I also think his archetype of player is of the mold of somebody that comes off the bench.
Yeah. Because
he's not the best game manager. He's not the greatest defender, but he could score in bunches. Yeah. So I would really like to see him come off the bench, and I think he could raise their ceiling as a team.
And by the way, that's the solution, because I think with the Magic, when they did that in 2009, they shoved Jameer Nelson back in the starting lineup. And at the very least, bring him off the bench, let him blend in. We saw that with LeBron, right? No, who came? Didn't LeBron come on? No, AD. Who came off the bench with the Lakers? Somebody came back. Am I going crazy? Somebody did that. It was a starter. Oh, no, Draymond. That's what it was. Draymond came back off the bench after that suspension and stuff like that because he recognized that there was something going on there that was beneficial for them. So, they need all those things that you mentioned. They needed scoring for sure. And that should help. But again, it's how do you don't want to disrupt what you got going with Caleb Martin. They even had Vincent. Vincent probably didn't score a ton tonight. Vincent ended up having 10 points. But he had a couple big ones, and he had that lefty layup that ended up being good and aggressive, and that was good to see.
Game 3, he's expected. It's actually right here. Chris Haynes tweeted. It's right on the TV screen. Game 3, he's expected to come back. Tyler.
All right, let's get some more super chats before they get too old. Jason Kelly, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. The pregame presser, I'm asking Malone. So, how does it feel to be the smart basketball people favorite, heavy betting favorite? Break up Tay and Brown. Okay. Well, so let's see. Do you think that they should break up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown?
I want to see it for Jaylen Brown. I want to see it for him more than if it's right for the Celtics because I believe he could flourish somewhere else, even though he had a really tough Game 7 here. I really like his game. I think he still has some superstar potential, in my opinion, just an elite athlete. The skill level is pretty good. He has to tighten up the handle. That's one thing he has to work on, and obviously the decision making. But I think he will flourish somewhere else. So we'll see what develops.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what to think. I think it's an unfair advantage for the Celtics when you have two players at those positions that can do what they can do, right? And hardly anybody else has that. I think I'd be willing to say keep them together, but you got to upgrade Smart. You got to upgrade Horford, I think, unfortunately. I think Horford's time.
Those two guys have played pretty well, right? I mean, Horford's shooting was up and down, but Smart had some really big games in this series.
I think he's just up and down. It's when you want to get to the finals, you got to have something steadier than that. And then I think Horford's defense is just it's too problematic for them and in too long stretches. Tonight was another example where it's tough because he was great against Embiid and he really was able to do things there. So it's worth having him maybe for certain series, but I think that he was hurting him too much, and he's getting to that point now in his career where you've got to start thinking about upgrading that.
Maybe sometimes your answer is right in front of you. Malcolm Brogdon came off the bench this year, and maybe you just start him next year and see what happens and play him major minutes for the beginning of the season.
Gee, that's a great idea. I wonder who had that idea when he got there. Absolutely, definitely a good point. Let's get to a couple more, and then we'll get back to Chip here. So let's see here. We have Andre Henry. Thank you so much, Andre. Hey, Coach, can you please explain this very bizarre series and something positive that the Heat can take into a very tough matchup with the Nuggets? Can we explain the very bizarre series? Well, obviously, it's bizarre because it was 3-0, and then it was 3-3, and then they win in the blowout. I think it's pretty easy. I think the Celtics could not hit a 3, and then they could hit a 3, and then they couldn't hit a 3 again. Is that too simplistic?
Yeah, I would explain it a little bit differently, but that's interesting. I like it.
Your shot.
The Celtics are a more talented team. The Heat are at a talent deficit. I think the Heat have I think their coaching staff is tremendous. Obviously, their culture is tremendous. And also, the Heat are just tougher. The Celtics are not as tough or smart as the Heat are, but the Celtics happen to have better players. And that's why this was so bizarre. That's why it was all over the place, because of those weird factors coming into play. One team more talented, but the other team had the better coaching staff, more heart, more IQ, and that's why they got it done.
For sure. And they saved Missoula's job. He wouldn't have made it if they got swept or lost in 5. So it was great to see them, rally around that. There was a good article in The Athletic about that from Jared Weiss, best friend of the Breakdown, about what they did to they went top shot, whatever that is, right? Chips, top shot.
Top golf.
Yep, top golf. Okay. Which is very fun driving, just whack the ball as far as you can.
Yep.
And it was really, those are important as a coach to try and get your team out of the film room, out of the negativity, and find something. So, and we talk about this all the time, Combo, as far as the mindset of being able to be a good 3-point shooter. You need to have that flow. You need to have that rhythm and that positive mindset. And if the coach is contributing to that and to the negativity, then that's a problem. You're going to be missing a lot. And then the pressure builds from one game to the next and from one shot to the next. And they were pressing those first three games. They were open. And then, by the way, I had a problem with the Heat because they kept pushing farther and farther off, saying, great, they're really missing. We're going to keep giving them more and more space. When they finally started hitting, they didn't really adjust. They kept letting them shoot those. And that was what we got, a 3-3. So, Spoelstra had some interesting things in the long game, and they might have shrugged a lot of it because of your point, saying that they're just not as talented, and we're happy to be here, and we were already playing with house money getting to the seventh game. But at some point, you got to have a little adjustment there and give your chance a good shot to win. Give your team a good chance to win. All right, let's get to the next super chat. Thank you so much, Joe B. Tsurugi Azukino. Thank you so much. Bam had a couple of good matchups. Could have scored. Okay, like when he didn't look at the basket when Smart took a dive. What do you think of that play, Chip?
There was 2 excellent no calls in the first quarter, and I thought that was one of them. The first excellent no call was Vincent's 3-point attempt at the top of the key when Williams jumped out to contest. On that play, and I tweeted about this, but John Goebels, the trail there, that's why we as refs are trained to follow the shooters up, down, and then look to rebound. We got to take them all the way down to the floor and stay with them to make sure they don't get fouled. Another reason for that is you're able to see Williams come in and stop short of contact, and then you're able to see Vincent land cleanly and then flop backwards. All the fans that are saying that should have been a foul, they wouldn't know because they're watching the ball fly through the air. But the refs aren't. They're staying with the shooter, and that's the reason why. The second no call is the one you mentioned. I think the spin-off on Bam, he went to Smart, but not through him. Smart was in a legal position. He was because of the spin move, right? It's not in the path like you normally would see on a straight line drive to the basket. But on this, when you're talking about a spin, sure, he goes into his chest, but he goes just to it. And then Smart embellishes the contact, throws himself back to try to draw the foul. I thought that was an excellent no call as well to keep the flow of the game going too. If on spinoffs, you're going to see a little bit more leeway on that unless they go through the chest of the defensive player. And the fact that Bam went to contact but didn't stumble forward at all, he literally stopped right at contact. That's why that's a good no call. And it's not a foul.
And he froze like a deer in the headlights and didn't shoot the ball. It was wide open. I think because he wanted to make certain that you saw he didn't go through him. So that was good, but then just shoot the ball. And that might be what Joe B is talking about as well. He had a couple of those. I suppose like the ISO stuff in the post is ugly to me. When we talked about this before combo, his foot plants are way too wide and not good balance. But he's got some sort of lefty thing going on that seems pretty good. He can get to his left hand and he can scoop shot that way. He had a couple of those. So that's good. Getting to the left and finishing there. I like that. Every other kind of shot, though, I'm not loving it too much. The turnarounds, the fades, around the dotted line area. And it's always been the hole in his game, right? Because he's so good at what they also forget to do, which is all that get action. Throw it to him, follow it back, hand off, turn it into a ball screen. It's wondrous when they run that stuff, and they don't do it enough, and then they forget to do it, and the other players, it must be organic motion that they run, so it's almost like they get it when they get it. But Spoelstra's got to be in the practice tomorrow and saying, Bam, you got to get open and get more touches on the high post, and you guys got to hit him and follow and do all that stuff. Strus, who is it? Strus is good at it. Duncan Robinson is great at it. Lowry is good at it. Is Butler doing? I can't even picture Butler doing it as much, right? Combo, can you?
Here and there.
He would probably be really good at it too. But again, if they go under it, then he can get a little head start and get down to the basket. So they need that in their off. Oh, by the way, the guy who's really good at it too is Tyler Hero. He is good at that, and so they need to get more of that action, and that could hurt the Nuggets. The only thing about that is interesting is that the Nuggets run the same play. They run all that action too. So in theory, they should be great at defending it and vice versa. So we're going to have an interesting chess match from that angle, at least, because they're going to run very similar actions. Okay, let's get to the next super chat. Here we go. Where is it? We have one more in the queue right now. Here it is. All right, Barth 3400. Thank you from Canada. You hoser. Really appreciate it. He should put Love on Jokic and Bam on Gordon. Okay, so now we're looking at that same Lakers idea where they had Rui on Jokic and they put AD on Gordon. Yeah, that makes sense to me. What was the story with Love? He's not injured. They decided not to play him?
Yeah, they decided not to play him. Yeah, he's not injured. He hasn't looked that good. Like they gave him some minutes earlier in the series. He wasn't looking that good.
I mean, okay. I mean, I saw him hit a couple threes.
I,
For full disclosure, I only had time to watch the last quarter of Game 6, so I'm assuming he had some minutes in there that didn't look good either.
Yeah, I would say like I understand where he's going with this because you don't want Bam on Jokic, you want him help side because they don't have a lot of help side defense. They're very small, so having Bam on Jokic, man, it would just be tough for them in the help side, away from the basketball for somebody to roam. And Bam can roam on Gordon because Gordon he made some shots in that last game, but overall he hasn't been shooting it great. But is a great player though. Love his game, but he just hasn't been making shots at times.
Right, and I'm curious to see how the zone could work to help on Jokic, and they're going to have to rely on the Nuggets going cold, feeling the pressure, just like the Celtics did. And the question then is, again, we talk about this all the time as far as like, what is there an effect that coaches can have on the 3-point shooting? Is there a more intrinsic reason for why these teams are going? The Celtics went so cold, right? It's weird. They're professionals. We'd expect them to shoot some version of what they shot in the regular season based on all that data, and yet it just the whole team evaporates. So I don't know if we have enough to understand exactly how that works yet. But I am convinced, and I'm going to probably talk to some more head coaches at Summer League this year to find out more about that, because I do feel like there's something. The mental thing as a group think becomes an issue, and it builds on itself. And you need, as a coach, to be able to snap them out of that with certain methods that they can develop. So anyway, but that should be a really good, interesting chess match. But I have a feeling that we're going to find out pretty quickly if they have an answer for this, right? In Game 1 is probably going to be the biggest game of the series because, if they can't solve that, they can't quite figure something out off of that, and they're going to, and try some things in Game 1, then I think the series could be over pretty quickly, right? They won't have much of an answer for Jokic then.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad. This is gonna be tough for the Heat, but we've been doubting them. Everybody been doubting them. They're not doubting themselves. So we'll see if we could get if they could get it done.
And also, what we always see is when teams have long layoffs, they're always rusty in the first quarter or first half. And you know what? The Heat won't be. They'll be ready to go. So that might give them an advantage and give them maybe a lead in the beginning that gets them the confidence, and they can roll from there.
How would you handle that situation with so much time off? Would you have them playing 5-on-5 in practice?
No, I mean, you can't risk getting an injury, right? But you'd have to do some up and down 3-on-0, 4-on-0, kind of stuff to get their legs moving. I don't see how you could do 5-on-5 in any meaningful way without risking some sort of injury at this point. So I don't think that they would. I think that they would go through 5-on-0, stuff like that. Or the most dummy defense just to kind of give them some bodies and really work on and just tweak all their focus. So in theory, what you might see on defense from the Nuggets should be pretty good. They should be completely prepared for this and denying certain passes. Like they should be trying to maybe deny the pass to Bam in the high post, make that harder, push him farther and farther out on the floor. Those are the kind of things you should see them do pretty well at the very least. I just think maybe offensively they'll be rusty. Maybe they'll be missing some shots there. And again, if it gets in their heads, that could last for a game or two. And then you know what? The Heat have shown us that they can really take advantage of that. But I don't know. I'm picturing KCP bombing away. I'm picturing Michael Porter Jr. I guess who else is going to bomb for them? Murray.
Murray,
yeah. Every once in a while Brown. So yeah, it should. I don't know. Do you have a feeling for a prediction?
Oh, I would say Denver in 6.
How about you, Chip?
Man, Denver in 5. I think Denver's solid, man. I think and listen, you just said about doubting the Heat. Everybody's been doubting them. Like I agree with you guys' points about there's a chance that they can stay in this series. They can even get it done, take advantage of opportunities. I just think barring some major injury, I think Denver's just going to be too much to handle personally. But again, I'm a ref. I don't care who wins. I just need you guys to know that I'm not pulling for anybody. But I'm looking forward to hopefully a good series. Hopefully it goes 7. We'll see.
For sure.
I just like good competitive basketball.
Yeah, the home court advantage is going to be big, I think, for Denver for a couple of reasons. The altitude is one, and then just home court.
What's your prediction, Coach Nick? Before Bron's question,
I kind of like 5. I kind of like it in 5, but we keep underestimating this damn Heat team, and we don't know about Hero. So I got to look at I got to look at Hero and see what he's. But he's not back until game 3.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Gosh, I could be a coward and just say 6, and just sort of hedge my bets on that one. So we'll see. But Bron, thank you again, Bron. My goodness, thank you so much. Hey, Coach, what are we missing from the Spoelstra zone? They extend out past the 3-point line, so it should be easier to get to the middle, right? Well, yeah, but they also have Bam, who is ready. They're always sort of there, ready to contain in that seam, and they just pursue really well. They really run hard and get through the spots quickly. If you notice, well, my favorite part is when Lowry is playing the forward in the 2-3, he puts his butt to the sideline. And that's actually how I designed my defense, which I'm going to release a video of right when the finals are over. So stay tuned for that, especially for a coach. I invented a defense that basically plays behind the ball. And part of the positioning that we have on the wings is you literally get to look at the floor and your back is to the sideline. So I'm excited to see then, and I think that they might want to run what I designed because of that. They already are getting some of that concept down. So, it really does work. And if you don't extend that far from your forwards, I don't normally in a 2-3 zone like the forwards to come out that far toward the wing because it leaves the corners exposed. But they were getting away with it. Or, you'd see Lowry come up to the wing and then have to turn around and run to the corner and try and get a hand up. It shouldn't work. But the Celtics were having some trouble. They were having trouble. And remember, shooting the ball from when you're in the corner, if you're going to face the ball, catch it, and then have to try and get aligned again and then shoot it is harder than just turning your head and catching it and then letting your body's already aligned. It's a little tweak. I need to go through and watch a lot of those corner threes the Celtics got and missed because I suspect that part of that is that where they were ruining their alignment to catch it and then trying to get it quickly while the guy's running at them. That does make it harder. What are your thoughts, Combo?
On
their zone.
On this question. Actually, somebody was going at me at YouTube for asking you when the question was right on the screen, so they could go at me again. But you gotta love the YouTube critiquers. All right. I mean, yeah, it should be easier, but as you said, Bam's in the middle waiting, so it is what it is. But I do think it's not only the zone; it's when Spo puts in the zone, like. He brings it in, he takes it out. He's great at giving you different looks, and that's what I love about the zone. And I think that's why it disrupts offense for the other team, for the opponent.
Yeah, that'll be a section of the video tomorrow for sure where I analyze how they did against the zone because they did well against the zone in certain games. And it's funny that way, how it works, it doesn't work, and from one game to the next, which also is a reflection on the coaching to some degree. But you're right. What they do is it makes it tough. And I can remember coaching. I never liked playing zone, but I remember coaching it and using it, and it would win us games. And I would always sort of feel weird about it. But at some point, you got to accept it. Like 2-3 zone, when you do it right, it can work. We have the next question, and this one's going to be for Chip, although I don't know if you're going to want to answer it, but I will answer it. We'll definitely weigh in. But you don't want to get into the Eric Lewis alleged burner account?
I'm sorry, Andre. I'm sorry about that. I know you spent money to ask this question and stuff, but can I just say one thing? Coach, I'm not going to comment about the burner account because there's an investigation ongoing with that. But one thing I do want to say is I personally know Eric, and I know that the side that you guys don't get to see is him being on Zoom meetings with college and high school officials at all times throughout the season, trying to help them get better at their game. I see his commitment to excellence as an official, his commitment to training and trying to help other officials get better. And I know the type of man that he is, and the hate and the criticism that he gets online from NBA fans is not only unwarranted, but in many cases is disgusting, especially attacks on his family. And so I do want to say that as far as the burner account and everything, we'll just see if the investigation holds, but and I'm sorry I can't answer more, but I did want to take that opportunity. And thank you for your question. I wish I could say more, but we'll see how it turns out. I know that the attacks that he gets are unwarranted a lot of times. And so it doesn't surprise me if this was true. And if it is true, I will say this last thing about it. I went through all the replies that Twitter account had, and not a single one of those replies shows any bias for or against any team whatsoever. It's really just defending NBA refs, defending Eric against baseless attacks, and conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. But at least, in my opinion, he didn't show any bias in any of those replies, if that is in fact him.
Well, considering you didn't want to say anything, now you said quite a lot, and that was great. It really, that's exactly what I was going to say too. Probably as far as what the replies were, because I was like, oh, when I heard about this, I was like, oh no, there's going to be some replies in that, maybe in that realm of like, remember the burner account we had from Colangelo in Philly, the GM, whether it was his wife or it was him. Remember that from a few years ago? And it really was bad, and I think it ultimately cost him his job. This didn't really rise to that level. I do want to look at like however they discovered this account, because it's always fascinating to me when they do figure it out and who they are. And we've had some very famous people who they've discovered it and it's been true. I think what's his oh my God, the senator from Utah, help me. He ran for president against Obama. God, this is my brain on COVID.
It's was he the Republican?
Yeah, his father was a big
Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney.
Yeah,
Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney had a burner that was hilarious. And I forgot the name of it, but it was hilarious. And it wasn't controversial. It was just kind of funny how he was responding. And then we had the Colangelo. So this one again, yeah. I mean, it's a bad look. You don't want it to have happen. But I definitely am curious to see how they put that all together. Tombo, did you see any of the reporting about how they figured out who it was?
I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys. I have no idea what you guys are talking about, or this question, or anything like that.
Oh,
but
really?
Maybe I was thinking about, my YouTube and Twitter haters. Maybe I need to make a burner account. That's all I'm thinking.
Dude, I'm telling you, like I was about to say, listen, if I could create a burner account and say what I really want to say to some people online sometimes, like I would be tempted to do that. I'm not enough of a big shot though, or like people don't know me well enough for me to even have a burner account. But we've seen NBA players have burner accounts.
Oh,
too,
KD.
right?
I mean, KD is probably the most known burner account person ever.
Yep, absolutely. Now refs are held to a different standard, and rightfully so. I talked to my brother today early about this, and he had said, I think the thing that most fans want is just to make is when they think about officials, they want to think of emotionless people. You know what I mean? People that don't show emotion, or this, that, and the other, or aren't bothered by fans, or this, that, and the other. And so, I understand where he's coming from on that. But my question I pose back to him is, if you've encountered all of the hate and all of the criticism and family attacks and all that stuff, like, is it not human to maybe want to stick up for yourself or defend officials or defend, your record? Like, I'm just saying it would be natural for me. I'm not even saying that's what he did or whatever, or if this is even true. But if it turns out that it is, in my weaker moments, I would do the same thing.
I was wondering, I was playing overseas, and after a game, a ref friend requested me on Facebook. Is that okay? That doesn't sound. I felt like it wasn't okay, but I was like,
I felt like. Well, here's the thing, like, and what people don't understand about officials is, especially when you're playing semi-pro, pro stuff like that, the more we know about a player, the more that we engage with a player, the easier it is to help us do our job and build camaraderie with those players. It's not about, when you see a like or something like that, it's not that we're liking you over somebody else, or it's not. There's a lot of coaches that follow me, and some of those coaches, I ref their games, like, that follow me on Twitter, but they know for a fact they can't game me. They can't manipulate me. Like, I'm not going to let it happen. Like, I'm there to call a fair game, and that's all that matters.
Maybe not for you, but do you think subconsciously, if somebody likes one person a little bit more than the other, it could add to some kind of bias? Not saying with you at all. I'm just saying in general.
Right. And that we're human, right? So, yeah. But here's the thing is, like, and I won't even say it from a like standpoint or us liking somebody more than another, because officials, the way we approach the game, man, I wish you guys could see behind the scenes of all the preparation that each crew goes through in, like, the day or two before the game to prepare for that game, even in the locker room before the game, at halftime. I wish you guys could have that access. Because it's just phenomenal. NBA refs, like, the preparation that they put in. But the thing that, like, we're humans. If somebody is going to always be constantly attacking us on the floor, I think it's more the other way than the like part. We start off with the same basic respect for every single player, every game. Right. Now, how they interact with us throughout that game doesn't mean we get filled with emotion and take that out on them. We're supposed to be emotionless, right? And we try our best to be that way every game. if somebody continually criticizes us, a player continually argues calls with us and this, that, and the other, I'm not saying that affects how we make that next call, but we're not going to be as open to hear their response. So, like, for instance, a player that comes to me and says, "Hey, Chip, and I like being called by my name. I think it personalizes it. I try to learn even college level, like in high school level, if I'm reffing a game, like I like to know the player's name so I can call them by their first name and personalize it. So it feels like we're all human here, So if they come to me and say, "Hey, Chip, could you please keep an eye on, number 12 for the other team? When I'm boxing out down there, I feel like he's hooking my arm. Could you take a look at that for me and approach me like that?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, of course, I'll take a look." But if you've already hammered me like 10 times, I know I haven't missed 10 calls in the first quarter. You know what I mean? I know I haven't missed 10 calls in the second quarter. Like, if you hammer me 10 times on calls and then you try to come to tell me that, I'm probably not going to listen to you because I don't believe you anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally understand.
So it's more of that dynamic than playing favorites. We don't play favorites. It's more about we're there to serve the game and to do the best job that we possibly can and for the game. You know what I mean? And that's why we're there. And anything that can help us do that to the best of our ability, we want to do that and keep the game on the rails. That's where communication with players, coaches comes in and all that stuff. But hopefully that answers some of your question.
Well, awesome. Well, Chip, I know it's getting late for you, so I think we're going to sign up with you. We have another guest who's going to come on and take your place, but thank you so much for breaking that down. And what an awesome question to spur a great discussion right now about refereeing and coaching and all that stuff. I think people got a lot out of that, so thank you.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate y'all, man. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon. Thank you.
All right, see you guys.
All right. Now, with that in mind, we will do this, and we will actually bring in Chris, friend of the breakdown. What's up, my man, Chris? What's going on? Oh no, unmute. Oh no, it's doing the whole thing. Now he's muted again with his damn thing. Well, you'll figure that out. We're going to throw up another super chat while we're getting there, and chime in when you're ready. Although it still says mute on your end, but here we go. You ready?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, there you go. All right, cool. What's up, Chris?
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Nothing much. Nothing much.
All right.
That?
Well, we're going to jump right into it because we have some super chats to get to before they get too late in the evening here. Isbum, the baddie, Mikichev, thank you so much. Mikichev, thank you so much for the super chat. If Kevin Love and Hero was healthy, 4-0 Heat. He thinks there's going to be a sweep if those two were healthy. Wow, I don't think we agree, do we?
Is he talking about the Celtics series?
I don't think either team will sweep.
Oh, never mind. He means the Eastern Conference Finals.
Oh,
yeah, right.
A sweep is tough. I mean,
but they had the 3-0 Heat and 3-0 lead, and then they wouldn't have lost the fourth. Interesting. I'm sorry. I was thinking you're talking about final. I'm pretty sure.
Here's the thing with those two players specifically: you could target them.
Yeah.
Defensively. So if they play more, you have more issues defensively. There's pros and cons to both of them, and there's obviously we know pros and cons when it comes to Tyler. So would the series would look different? Would the Heat win 4-0? I don't necessarily think so.
Yeah, you could argue that.
Yeah,
Hero playing takes away minutes from possibly Martin. Maybe Martin doesn't have that type of series with Hero playing. So he basically takes away minutes from the guys who are playing, who are better on defense and stuff like that for the Heat.
And again, what a weird series, only in the sense that the Celtics just went so cold from three for such long stretches that you don't necessarily count on that. That wouldn't be the thing, you would game plan for or assume. And so, when that happens, you can get weird swings like this back and forth like we had. So, just as hard as it was to go up 3-0 and sweep, it's really hard to win 4 games in a row. And Celtics will learn that as well. So, but yeah, I think that I'm anxious to see how they're going to do this if Hero is healthy. But again, by the third game, it's tough. Again, not only have they gotten something going for the whole playoffs, but now you're talking about like in the middle of the finals, you've kind of got something going. If it was going well, do you want to throw Hero into that and maybe disrupt what was going well? It's going to be a really interesting question for them. I obviously, I'm sure they would try it, but I would have a very short leash on that one and get him out if it's not working quickly. So thank you so much, Isbum. Let's get to the next one. I think there's another one up here before I scroll too fast. Wait, is that the last one? Oh, yeah, there's another one. Where's Daryl? 843. Here we go. Daryl, thank you so much, Daryl Wallace. Do you all think that Boston moves on from Jaylen Brown? I'm a big fan of his, but this was a major stinker from him tonight, which pains me to write. Let's just go over the box score numbers because that's only part of the story. But he went Jaylen Brown went 8 for 23, 1 for 9 from 3, only 2 free throw attempts, so he made them. 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, and 8 turnovers. That was a real killer there. I don't know. We already talked about it, but let's talk about it again.
I think he ends up somewhere else.
Wow.
I think he ends up in Atlanta.
I guess it depends on how much. I guess it depends on how much the Celtics offer. If they offer him the Supermax, if they offer him the Supermax, he takes it. He's not going anywhere. With the new collective bargaining and stuff like that, committing $600 million to 2 players is really interesting. And if you're number 2, if you're not completely sold on your number 2, then do you give him that much money? So it's just, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the front office and how they feel about him. So.
I hear you. They're gonna have to really look at it because again, it's not like we've had one playoff series or 2 playoff series. These guys have been together for is it 4 or 5 years?
No,
more.
He was drafted. Jaylen Brown was drafted 2016. So, and then Tatum was drafted 2017. So since 2017,
6 years.
So it's 6 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they've been six years together, and they've made the playoffs. Every year, 16, 17, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, they made it every year. They didn't make it his rookie year. No, they did. Wait, so they didn't make it in.
They made it every year. Jaylen Brown just didn't play in when they lost to the Nets 5-1.
That's right. And I'm looking at Jaylen Brown's stats. So I'm like, why am I missing 1 year in there? But okay, so they made the playoffs every year. Again, there's a lot of data to really ascertain whether or not this works, right? It's not like they're just, they're young, they're developing. Brown came in the league old, I believe. Or, he's 20 when he came in. So he's 26. Tatum is what, 24?
25.
25. I know it's still young. I know the prime is still about to hit them right now, but once you get like into your 4th or 5th year in the league, I kind of feel like we kind of know what you are. So it's an interesting question. So we shall see, but I don't know. It's probably 50-50. I think that they're going to really think about it. I don't think it's a no-brainer. They're going to trade him, but I think it's as likely they do as they keep him.
It's interesting.
Yeah. The one thing about Jaylen Brown, though, he has gotten he makes strides in his game every year. His handle and stuff like that. He cut his finger or slashed his hand on watering his plants right before the playoffs. He fell on his elbow in the Sixers series. So I don't know how much that is causing 8 turnovers. I mean, a lot of it is decision making and just being loose with it, but those things could play into it. But it just depends.
That he was watering his plants or whatever.
That's just
wait. Say that again,
that's
Coach.
weird.
What'd you just say?
What was the reason, Chris? Was it watering his plants?
Yeah, and he like broke a vase or something, and I was like, I don't know. Same thing. Didn't Rondo like slip in his bathtub or no? John Wall.
No, John
down the
Wall,
stairs.
like, when he was recovering from an injury.
Right. Boozer, tripped on a bag. Kobe was moving boxes in his garage and like stuck his hand through a window. I mean, I generally don't believe them when they're that kind of crazy stuff.
My mom has a whole bunch of plants, and she waters the plants, does a whole bunch of stuff with plants. She's never cut her hand. I can say that.
Well, if someone were to make one of those like sports-like injuries up, why don't you just say it was while you were working out? Why would you have like a crazy I don't know, story that just sounds crazy,
I mean, because, it's tough. Like, if you got into an argument with somebody, you got so mad and you punched through a piece of glass or whatever, like, you're not, you got to come up with something like that's tough. That's a tough one. Some of the other ones, maybe other injuries, but the cutting of the hand one are always kind of weird to me. But, I don't know. Kevin Love, someone was doing knuckle push-ups. That was the thing, and they broke his hand. Kevin Love? Kevin Love.
That sounds familiar.
That doesn't sound possible.
Right. So he probably
Exactly.
punched somebody, and whatever. But I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever they did, and if it's true or not, I don't know. But it just sounds weird to me. But we
I
got
had the same
Wally.
thought. I'm not gonna lie, Coach. I had the same thought.
Yeah, right. And it's not fair. We're just conjecture, but still, it's interesting. Wally Costellas, thank you so much, Wally. It's his first super chat. Woo, here, it's his first super chat. All right, Wally, would the Heat be better if all their key players were in their athletic primes, or are they better with the current mature version of those players? Well, who are we talking about? I guess is Butler sort of
Lowry, I guess Lowry and Love.
Maybe I mean
right there.
Kyle in shape.
Love.
Kyle in shape is even. It's more about that than the age. He's just not in shape.
Yeah. Okay. So there's Lowry, there's Love. I don't know. I mean, Love was never good at defense, really. Even when he was a little bit quicker or whatever, or better in shape or moving better. So I don't know if that really mattered. Lowry probably helps them even more. He would be less up and down, right? Because he's been really good in very certain times and not good at others.
Big game today. Big game today.
Yeah, what was his number? Let's look at Lowry's numbers real quick. So Lowry finished with here off the bench.
He only had 7.
Oh, it felt like a loud 7.
Yeah, allowed 7 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, so that's important, and a couple turnovers. So he was steady for them in the 24 minutes he played. So he was good, good enough to let guys like Martin just light it up and just be aggressive. It's really nice. That's been a fun thing to do. He deserves a video just to sort of explore what he's done and how he's gotten to where he is, because you can just see him every game just get more and more confidence and aggression. I don't think that'd be much different. I think Lowry helps them a lot if it's in his prime, without question. That is a big jump. So that's the one thing. So good call on that one. And we have another first super chat from Joshua Anderson. Thank you so much, Josh. All right, we'll give him a couple different sound effects for him. So his question, and thank you again, it's so generous. Duncan Robinson really showed me some stuff this playoffs. Cutting layups, decent defense, amazing. Please give him some love. Wait, you forgot the most important thing for me was passing. He was passing his ass off in this series. He had a lob. He had a beautiful jump off to Zeller in the game 5. You know what I mean? Like off of drives. It really is exciting for me to see him develop, but then also frustrating that they forget about him too often, don't they?
They do. Also, this series would have been over if he would have made 1 or 2 of those threes.
Okay, should he have bounced the ball?
Oh my God, I've been hearing this.
No.
I've been hearing this on Twitter. There are players that I seen some great shooters that like to get in rhythm like that. I mean, should he have bounced it? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't in his hands right, and that's how he got it right. I mean, it's not the most optimal. It's not the most optimal thing to do when you catch the ball in a catch and shoot situation and do that. Obviously,
well, he shouldn't have hesitated. He should have just shot it.
Yeah, but maybe the ball wasn't in his hand right.
But like the plays before where he was hitting them, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't dribbling. He was just caught it, shot it. He didn't think about it.
Oh, I mean, that'd be weird if a player did that every single time.
Well, but Combo's point is maybe the catch was very subtly, not in his hand right, and he had to just adjust. I looked for that. I couldn't see the evidence of that, but I like to think that
Brown was going to come and contest.
What's that?
I just think he thought Brown was going to come fly by contest, but he just didn't. So that's what made him take the dribble.
Right. Okay. I like to think I can answer a question about shooting when someone asks me right away, and I've been kind of stumped about this. Well, I can't decide what I would do or what I think that he could have done differently because, again, guys have loaded up and taken that dribble, big deal. I mean, we all shoot around since we were little kids like that. Take a dribble and we shoot it. So, I probably think it's not a big deal, but man, I'm sure he's happier than anybody in that locker room that they won because. Those were tough. Those couple that he had. One was a little bit contested, but that other one was big, and he needed to hit that one. So that was interesting. We didn't talk about the final play of the game 6 either. But let's get to another super chat. Well, let's see. Did we cut this one? So let's make sure Duncan Robinson, yes, needs some love. I'm going to make sure I got to spotlight him too. He's just been a huge. I just looked at his minutes to see how up and down they were. Let's go back through the whole playoffs. It's like 6 minutes, 25, 23, 30, 15, 12, 20, 12, 11, 22, 14, 6, 20, 22, 10, 27, 20. It's a little bit inconsistent, and it's frustrating, and I would be frustrated that way too, trying to perform as a shooter. So hopefully in the finals, he's going to get his solid what? I think he needs to get 22 minutes a game minimum, right?
He's been playing great. I think so too. I think maybe even more. But with Hero back,
yeah, it's tough. And Strus, they got to kind of figure out between Strus and Robinson, like what's going on, who's going and who's not. And get him out there. He needs his 20. They could find a way to get 20 out of him with Hero coming back, I think. All right, let's get to. I think we have another one. Oh, Andrew Zhu, best friend of the Breakdown. Andrew, great to see you. Thank you so much. As a Warriors fan, remember the Celtics trying to attack Steph last year. Weird to see Gabe Vincent on Horford and then not go there in the post. We had Gabe Vincent guarding Horford. We had Horford guarding Lowry. So there was a three that I think it was Robinson got. Oh no, it was the Robinson backdoor cut on Horford where they ran horns. If you can picture this, I tweeted it out. But they started out horns, Lowry on top as a point guard, and Horford guarding him. And this was like out of a timeout, out of a break. This wasn't a switch. And then Horford had to switch because they both came up the ball screen, and he was on Robinson, who backdoored him way too easily. And the play before that, he had sunk on a pick and roll, and Robinson got a wide open three. Those are the moments where you're like, Horford's just killing them, and he's been killing them a lot in a lot of those situations. So, but it was weird to see. Both these teams lack a little bit of that sort of killer instinct on offense to exploit mismatches when they were there, right?
Go ahead, Chris.
Absolutely. I think I took LeBron James for granted in his prime when he was in the East. I really thought that was the norm. He would attack mismatches constantly until you literally got the guy off the floor. And watching other teams try to do it and just completely fail just makes me puts it in perspective how great LeBron was and is when attacking matchups in his prime. Because
I think
teams
Horford
can't do it now.
Yeah, I think Horford is just the player that's so set in shooting the three and playing the way he does that he's not really going to mix it up like he used to,
Yeah. But the thing, like the Spurs were really good at this too in their heyday, where you got a mismatch like down low, and boom, the ball was there within one pass, and they were looking for it. They were trying to find the guy who's going to post up. So there is a focus from the coaching staff that I think can help them do that. It's not there. It wasn't there from Mazzulla, unfortunately, or they weren't listening to him, or they couldn't handle it, whatever. By the way, the Heat were similar in a similar way. It's hard to criticize them. They won by 20 in a Game 7 on the road, so they did fine. But there were moments that was like, why? What are they running on offense? I couldn't figure that out. But at any rate, again, congrats to the Heat. They did what they needed, and clearly Spoelstra outcoached Mazzulla for enough of the series to win, and then probably more than not in that case. But hopefully the Heat can regroup a little bit, get a day or so. We have till Thursday before the first game, just to kind of get some things sorted out and what not to do, and they can eliminate those things. At least we'll have a better series. We have, I think, let's go. This is our last super chat. Andrew again is back with us. Thank you so much, Andrew. Miami hasn't won in Denver since Jokic became a starter. Is that right? I mean, they only play
sounds
once
about right.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, I think he's 6-1 versus the Heat.
Okay. And then I guess at home undefeated. It makes sense. Bam has been the starter probably for that same time, and they don't have anybody else really that's big enough to handle Jokic. I guess we're going to see Zeller minutes.
Udonis Haslem.
Would you go crazy and just start Zeller? Zeller, Bam, maybe Zeller, Bam. What would it be?
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised when it comes to Spo because he'll just switch starting lineups whenever,
Yeah. So bring Martin off the bench and from starting lineup. So you got Vincent, Butler, Bam, Zeller,
Strus,
and Strus.
But you don't think their offense suffers too much if they have?
Why don't they go Love? Why don't they go Love?
Or Love. I mean, I guess that's what they're going to do first. They need, I'm still picturing Love, despite having some girth, just getting destroyed.
All those guys are going to get destroyed.
Yeah, I guess so. I for some reason Zeller, I know he's 6 fouls, but he's sort of a bigger body. He's focused on defense and I don't know. Maybe they can do something there with him, but they're going to have to come up with a creative lineup or two. I think that's going to be for the Heat to have any hope. It's going to be on like some weird lineup that we hadn't really seen before. I think that they can't prepare or whatever. I can't picture because I can't picture any of their normal lineups working really well. So because he like to go smaller and smaller and smaller, and like I don't know how that's going to work. Can you run Jokic off the floor? I don't know. He's been in good shape. He was beating Anthony Davis down the floor consistently.
He's just not as slow as people think. I've been saying this for a while.
He's not as out of shape as people think.
Oh, he's got to.
And if you start Love or Zeller, doesn't that just give Jamal Murray an easy target? Because I think he will attack those guys on offense. So if you start either of those, you're just giving him I think he just gets started quicker in the game. You can see him just go have an 8-0 run by himself.
I feel like Denver gives the opposing defense just so many conundrums and problems. It'll be interesting to see how Spo tries to figure this out.
Right. Especially because, again, they run very similar actions. So they should be used to how to guard these things. So that's an advantage in some respect for the Heat, but also an advantage for the Nuggets. So it should be fascinating. And, again, I think we're going to find out pretty quickly by the end of game one where we stand. I don't know, and I guess what I'm saying is the Heat probably are going to be at a disadvantage. The score will probably be in the Heat's favor. In the Nuggets' favor. And I'm just anticipating a really clear-cut blueprint for how they're going to win in 5 or maybe 6. I'm probably talking myself into a 5-game series now. What do you guys think as we wrap up?
Oh, I think it's 5. I think it's Denver in 6.
Yeah. We have a quick question in the who guards Jamal. I think you put Vincent on Jamal, right, and let him hound him. No, you want something bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no way.
I think he just shoots right over him. And Jamal been adding some really nice post stuff too. Like he got some stuff.
So you got the Butler on him. I don't know if they want to do that either.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know who could guard that guy.
I wouldn't be surprised if they start with Strus on him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Put a bigger guy on him. Let him. All right, maybe. It's all fast.
Have Vincent on KCP. Yeah.
I mean, Duncan was blocking Jalen today. Maybe Duncan.
Yeah.
On that 3. Yeah, that was.
Wait. Let me ask you, before we wrap it up. Let me ask you a question. Wait, was the shot clock going down? Why did he go to a step back against them? Jaylen Brown went to a step back versus Duncan. You got to attack him.
Oh, I know.
His decision making was horrible today. It was just really his reads were just as bad as I've seen.
They weren't attacking Tatum on one leg, and a couple times they finally figured it out. They burped up 2 long jumpers, which is the exact opposite what you want to do for a guy like that. It was both sides was strange, sort of the focus and how they wanted to attack or not understanding the best ways to attack. So that and it seems to me that Denver understands that. Denver will know how to exploit that and really kill you over and over again. They've learned that through this playoff. So. That's everything's pointing to a shortest series. I would think.
I don't think you could play. Also, I don't think you can play zone against the Nuggets because Jokic just in the middle. He can hit those shots at the free throw line. He has a little floater. He has a little midi, and if he draws 2, you have Michael Porter in the corner, and then you have Aaron Gordon in the dunker spot. So.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's a neutralizer of the zone, but you never know. Sometimes it works, and he gets confused, and they show him different looks, and he tries to throw a pass he thinks is wide open, and then bam, seals it. Right, like that could happen, but we'll see. Anyhow, great stuff, great show to everybody tonight. Thank you so much for Chip out there. Thank you all for the super chats. Really, really generous of you. It really helps the show keep going. And I suppose we're going to be here after every finals game, right, Combo?
Let's do it, man.
I'm sure we'll see you out here too. All right. Well, you know what happens if I hit that button too early, we're going to lose your response to my question I ask you every time. So I'm going to go a little bit longer this time to make sure we get it for the pod. Which, if you missed part of this or all of it or some of it, you want to watch it again or listen to it on the podcast, I will post this ASAP up on the feeds wherever you get your pods. So again, thank you guys. Thank you, Combo. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody out there. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, guys?
Yes, sir.
I'm in.